Hello, everyone, and hi, Dr. Carla. Um,
Hello,
it's
Dr. Shelley.
it's so lovely to be here together, but across the world. So where are you in California?
I'm in Santa Rosa, California, Sonoma County, about 60 miles from San Francisco.
Fantastic. And I'm in the Sunshine Coast in Queensland in Australia, in the School of Education. So I'll start with my little introduction. My name's Dr. Shelley and I'm a lecturer in curriculum and pedagogy, so that's a big title. But really what I do is I teach teachers, and I'm also an author of about 45 books to date. So I'm really I'm passionate about people, just about people, and about living long, happy, healthy lives. And Carla, yeah, I'd love to know a bit about you.
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist. I specialize in anxiety, trauma, and depression. We intersect really well because I too am, from the work I do, really passionate about helping people create lives that are filled with joy, not stress and chronic anxiety, but really balanced, wholesome lives. And so that's my focus. I have written one book, actually two, but the second one's not, it's out in October. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, that's great. And just so people know, Carla and I have only recently met, and this is us really getting to know each other as we get to know you, woman to woman. So it's very exciting. I was really excited to see your title, Carla. When I read your title talking about fear and joy, I just felt like, wow, isn't this the essence of humanity? We're constantly between fear and joy, and when fear takes over, it incapacitates us and it makes our lives so miserable. So maybe just as a kind of interview, I would love to hear what was your what was your inspiration for writing the book?
So Joy from Fear, which is my book, is a book about how to use joy in your life, throughout your life, right? Really how to come to know your joy. And what I found in my research during my clinical psychology program was that it's fear. Fear is what impedes us from finding our true joy in life. And so I utilized my research that went beyond my doctoral program to figure out what it was in people that stopped them from living joy-filled lives. What were the fears? What were the common fears? What were the themes? So what led me on a personal level, so that's kind of the introduction to the book itself. But what led me to really be interested in this is that I grew up in a family, I'm the ninth child in a family of 10 children, and grew up in a Catholic environment with parents who were well-meaning, but who had never been educated on how to raise children. And so we were raised, it was a very dysfunctional home environment. And so early on in life, I must have sensed that, because when I was asked in third grade, what do you want to do when you grow up? I just automatically said, I want to be like Lucy and Charlie Brown. You know, I want my own little shack giving psychological advice for a nickel. My aunt laughed at me because I tested very high and was supposedly too smart to be a psychologist or too smart to be a teacher. And so wanting to be a good girl and please my family, after I, meandered through life, had lots of challenges. Growing up in a dysfunctional household was not easy, so many, many challenges, and went off to college and then decided to pursue law school. So I got into a really top-notch law school in San Francisco and was in the program, but my body was smarter than I was. So I was doing what my family wanted me to do. I was doing what my father wanted me to do, but I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And so my body talked and it told me, we're not hungry, we're not eating, we're going on strike. And so I was anorexic, and at about 84 pounds, wisened up and dropped out of law school and started doing some healing work, and then went into a master's program in psychology, in counseling in Sonoma County, California, and earned my master's degree. And my family was so disappointed that my father didn't even come to my graduation. Notice the father theme here, wanting to be the good girl and do the right thing. And ultimately got married and had two children, but married for the wrong reasons, wasn't really it was not a happy or high functioning marriage. And so being a good Catholic girl, I wanted to make it work and wanted to do everything right. And so I worked very hard in an industry where I could make money and support my family and support my children and support my husband. But it was very unfulfilling, and woke up at the age of 40. And this is the part that where I really invite listeners, women, to notice this, of how much we are all alike, and that I use my battle wounds, so to speak, to really support others and encourage others, and knowing that the journey of life is not necessarily easy, and that in my case it certainly wasn't. But I did have a wake-up call at about age 40, and I said to my husband, I've supported you for so long in all your dreams. I want to go back to school and get my doctorate. And he said, no, absolutely not. I like the way things are. You're going to stay right here doing this. Wow. And I woke up not too much long after that saying, I'd rather be dead. I have everything. It looks good. The right car, the right house, the right kids, the right husband. It looks great from the outside, but it was not good on the inside. And even more important to me, Shelley, was that I realized that I was not being a good role model for my children. Yeah. And my children are so important to me. And I realized, how can I be telling them on this hand, follow your passions, do whatever you want to be it. Just fill it, fill it up with passion. I don't care if you're a garbage man, an artist, a mathematician, whatever you want to be, just be it, do it. And I realized I'm not doing that. And so I decided that I needed to go back to school. My marriage ultimately dissolved, but I didn't. And even though I had worries that I might have made a bad decision, somehow the universe really supported me. And I earned my doctorate while working full time with the support of my sons were just incredible. My friends were just incredible. And I earned my doctorate. I continued working while I did my internship. Eventually was able to leave the industry that I was in, the unfulfilling industry, and worked with juvenile probation. And during all of this, especially during my dissertation, I realized, what was it that held me back for so long? What was it? Wait, why is it only now that I'm waking up? And I realized that that's when I had the epiphany. It was fear. And I wanted to research fear and understand fear so that I could help other people get unstuck sooner than I did, or with more ease than I did, or with more support than I had. And that's how, so I used the research, I used my own life skills, my own life experiences, and I wrote the first version of Joy from Fear, and then I had to put it aside because life got very busy again. And then I picked it up and read it. I thought, oh, this is terrible. It's awful. It's so boring. It's so academic. And then I started from scratch, and I wrote simply from my heart and let it get channeled through me. And that is how Joy from Fear ultimately came to life. And it's just, for me, a real dream come true, because it's my way of doing therapy. I was able to encapsulate it in a book. So for people who can't afford therapy, or when it is a companion to therapy or something like that, it's just a beautiful way to begin to use one's fears, not running from them, but using what I call fear. We have rational fear, right? Fear of being, bitten by a really mean dog, not a gentle dog, but a mean dog, or fear of getting, lunged at by a bobcat when you're out walking in a forest. But that's not the kind of fear I'm talking about. The kind of fear that I came to work with is irrational fear. Fear that tells us that we must be doing something because we won't be loved if we don't do it right, if we don't do it at all, what we should be doing. And so for many of us, women, this of course affects men as well, but we are focusing on women with this series, and it is about, what do you need to do to find the opposite side of the destructive fear, what I call constructive fear? How can you dismantle things so that you can begin to listen to the truth? And the truth is that you are meant to follow your dreams, you are meant to follow your passions. And yes, if you stumble, as we all stumble, that you can pick yourself up, learn the lessons, and move forward. And that really ultimately, once you put action behind the growing awareness that comes from constructive fear, then your life transforms. And it's slow, but it's steady if you keep at it. And then you've transformed your life. And you look and you just keep, and some people say, oh, well, so then I'll do it and I'll be done forever. And I laugh and I say, no, 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 no. I'm constantly polishing my stone, my self-awareness, and heading in different directions where I can be a better me, where I can be of more service to others, so that it's an evolution. So that's the story.
That's so amazing. I want to know, do you still have fears, and how do you manage, what kind of fears would come to you now with all this amazing wisdom that you have and that you've brought to your book, which I love how you describe it as a companion, because that's how the best books should be, like friends that you can keep next to your bed and that really speak to you. And I have a few of those, and yours sounds absolutely like one of those, Carla. So with all that wisdom, what do you still fear? And then what do you do when you do?
It's interesting. It's such a good question, because I think we never get away from fear. It's one of our basic emotions. And so for me, I would have to say I will probably always be plagued on some level about the fear of not getting it right. The fear of not getting it perfect, because that's been a struggle for me all my life. I want to be perfect, and it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So when that little voice comes up and says, you better be careful, you might make a mistake, or you might not be a this, I just talk to it and I say, and will it be okay if that happens? Will that be okay? If I do this and it's not successful in the public's eyes, will I be okay? Of course I'll be okay. Of course I will. So, using it to talk, actually have a conversation with fear. I love having conversations with my fears. And a really good example that is one that most people can probably relate to is that it's new to me, probably not new to you, but new to me to do book signings and book readings and a lot of public speaking before complete strangers. And I was told, you don't really have to do this because not many people go to book signings anymore. And lo and behold, people are coming to my book signings, right? So I'm speaking before people, and I had to be able to face, well, what will happen if no one shows up? Well, that's a fear. It hasn't happened yet, but if it did, I'd be okay, right? And so talk to the fear. What happens if I get up and it's a crowd full of people and I slip on my words or lose my place? Well, that's not happened to a big extent, but sure, I've slipped on a word here or there, and I've been okay. And so it's that sort of thing. And so now I have no fear when I'm getting up on a stage. If anything, I'm just very excited to start speaking and to start start sharing the message. And so I think that is the best I can offer, that fear comes up, it wants to be noticed. And when we talk to it and take it seriously and don't let it bully us, because there is a side of fear that wants to bully us, and we just make our way through it in a very gentle conversational style, that's where the learning is and that's where the growing is. And we don't necessarily, so many people ask me, and I'm doing therapy with them, well, I'm not changing, how long will this take? And I say, but you are changing. You just don't see it because you're in your skin. And after several months, they'll come back and they'll say, well, I've really noticed this in my life. I've been using my tools and I'm sleeping better, or I'm more balanced, or I'm taking better, or I'm communicating better with my partner. And all of that is the journey of making it through one's fears and getting to the other side, where there's more joy, right? More peace, more tranquility, and less stress, less worry, less self-doubt. So that's it.
That's great. That is so inspiring, Carla. I love hearing that. And I feel there's so many similarities between you and I. I also had anorexia as a young person. I starved myself until my hair fell out and my period stopped, and I battled with an eating disorder for years. And that's also part of my story and what happened later to my body, which we'll probably talk about next time. But I feel this huge synergy with you, and I feel like we've got this with probably millions of women all over the world, that even though our stories are so unique, our fears and our joys have so many common themes. And if we don't feel alone, we can find courage just in hearing each other's stories, because sometimes it's the being alone with your fear that is so terrifying, because then fear gets legs and, you know, becomes monstrous, and it does for me anyway. So it feels really wonderful to see that you have a book out there that can be a companion to anyone who is struggling with, you know, anxiety. You know, all of fear has so many different children. You know, anxiety, stress, you know, all of that. So it's so wonderful. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and it's not a surprise that we're connected on yet another level. So I can't wait to hear more about your story, because you're so right. We all have our stories. Every woman who's listening, and, you know, every man who might have, you know, taken a look into what we're talking about here, we are all more alike than we know. And it is when we are vulnerable and begin sharing our stories, how much support there is, how much commonality, how much beauty there is in holding hands, linking arms, and sharing our stories, so that we know we're not alone, and so that we can support each other and love each other and help. You know, I love the image of scaffolding, right? That we as women, we as human beings, when we take each other and support each other to go to the next level, I think it just brings out the best in us.
Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you so much, Carla, and look forward to chatting next time.
Yes, I'm excited. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. Take care.